Have you ever heard of sustainable finance and then just thought about how people talk in terms like, how when sustainability KPIs turn into money because you can see real impact through cutting edge green technology, reducing emissions, which is linked to better financial capital or access to green loans and sustainability linked bonds and blah, 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 and blah. And all of this sounds just so weird and confusing to you because first of all, you're not from a financial background, so you don't understand finance and find it boring. Or second, even if you're from financial background, you just don't understand what is the value creation from sustainability and sustainable finance. Well, if that's what you're struggling with or trying to understand, you are at the right place because in today's episode, we are going to understand what sustainable finance is, both if you're from a finance background or if you absolutely don't understand anything about finance and find it super boring. But hey, if you want to work in sustainability, knowing sustainable finance is super, super important. So make sure you watch the full video till the end because today we are going to break down sustainable finance into super easy concepts and make you job ready for your next ESG role and also make you the next sustainable finance pro if you can just start with the basics that we learned today. So let's get started. Hi guys, welcome back to genSustainable, and today we are back with another interesting and important topic, which is sustainable finance. Now this topic is very important if you're preparing for interview, if you're just starting out your new job, or if you're just here wondering what sustainable finance is because you are probably from finance background or learning about finance and then trying to understand what sustainable finance is, or if you are just curious about these words like sustainable finance, ESG linked loans, green ETFs, which are coming up everywhere, and want to know what all of these things are. So today we are going to break down all of this into easy and simple to understand bite-sized lessons like we always have on genSustainable, so that you are ready with the next flex word for yourself, which is sustainable finance. So let's get started. So first, let's understand what sustainable finance is. Now, I'm sure if I give you the textbook definition, or if like a definition we get from some book for CFA preparation or CA preparation, I know most of y'all are going to run away from here. So hey, let's make it super, super simple for all of us to understand what sustainable finance is. Okay, so now let's take example of Monopoly game. Now, what happens in a traditional Monopoly game? You are making money, you're making profits by investing your money in different places, and majorly you invest your money looking at the returns. What instrument would give me the highest return, and you invest your money there. So it could be that you are investing in a manufacturing company because they are producing a lot of goods, different type of goods, and they are making a lot of profits. Obviously, if you invest there, you'll make good amount of money. Or you can invest in a bank, in shares, in mutual funds, just by looking at how much financial returns you would get. So this is traditional finance, where you look at profits and then you make your investments. So now let's understand what sustainable finance is. Now, sustainable finance is obviously very, very similar to traditional finance. You want your money to make money for you. You want profits, obviously, but at the same time, you do not want this profit making to impact the planet, people, or have any adverse negative impacts on anyone, on human rights. So you add another layer of ESG or sustainability to it. So suppose you want to invest your money into energy sector and get some returns on it. You have two options. One is investing in a company which produces energy with the help of fossil fuels, and the second one is company B, which is producing energy, but this company is producing energy with renewable resources. Now, obviously, company A might be providing you higher profits in terms of absolute number. For example, company A might be giving you profits which are 10%, but at the same time, they are causing GHG emissions, which can lead to climate change. They are causing a lot of pollution, which can impact human health. And then you have company B, which might be giving you comparable profits, say not 10%, but probably 8%. But at the same time, they are producing energy from renewable sources. So they are not causing GHG emissions, they are not causing pollution, and hence they have better sustainable return on investment or a better sustainability linked ROI, and hence you go and invest your money in the sustainable option, which is company B. So this is as simple. Sustainable finance is as simple as this, that you obviously want your money to make profits for you, but at the same time you add another layer of ESG or sustainability so that the planet is not harmed. So you get it? When genSustainable is here, why fear? Because all topics are so simple. But now I know you must be wondering that, hey, if I have to add another layer of ESG and sustainability, how is that even going to give me better profits in the long term? If you're probably a finance grad or if you're into absolute financial calculations, I do understand that yes, it might give you lesser profits in terms of absolute numbers, but then sustainable finance obviously gives you better returns on investment in the long run. Because I am sure you must have heard about climate risk analysis, you must have heard about social impact assessment, and if not, do check out my videos here. Do check out the TCFD video or do check out the podcast on CSR to understand social impact assessment. Now, with all of these sustainability linked things happening around the world with climate change, obviously the resources are limited and the entire economy or the manufacturing sector is very, very vulnerable to climate change. And climate change can obviously impact not just the manufacturing sector, but all the sectors together, not just in the long term, but you can see these impacts even in the medium term or short term. So if you take the consideration of sustainability or ESG into your investments, obviously you're future proofing your investments from climate related or sustainability or social impact related risks. And then if you calculate the profits against the social security or the environmental security that you're getting or the regulatory security that you are getting, you obviously are going to make much more profits if you do your investments into sustainable assets. So now if you're someone who is preparing for ESG interview and want to be prepared with the topic of sustainable finance, because hey, even if you're not appearing for a sustainable finance specific role, even if you're appearing for a general ESG or sustainability analyst role, you are still going to get asked questions about sustainable finance, because eventually everyone invests their money to get profits. And if you're into sustainability, you need to know how money works with respect to ESG and sustainability. So now for this, let's take 3 simple examples which you can talk about in your interview, with which you can obviously impress your interviewer and make them understand that you understand sustainable finance very well. So now first, let's begin with the environmental or E aspect of sustainable finance and take a simple example of what is green bonds. So now say any city is building new metro system in the city. Now any Indian city, if you take for example Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, you name any city and metro is getting constructed. Now take an example that these cities want to make the metro network green and sustainable, but they do not have the money to do all of the construction and then again add a layer of sustainability to it, which can make it even more expensive. So how do they get the money to finance this construction? So it's simple. Here they will issue green bonds. And what are green bonds? So they will issue bonds to investors, wherein investors will invest their money into the bond. Now with this money which they get from the bonds, the city obviously has resources to build the metro. But then what benefit do the investors get out of it? So first of all, the investors would obviously get some amount of profit which the city makes from the construction of the metro. And at the same time, the metro construction company will also promise the investors that each and every penny invested would only be used for green purpose. So for example, procuring renewable energy for metro or procuring sustainable materials which can be used for building the metro infrastructure or building the metro coaches. And this way you guarantee investors that you will not just get profit from your investment, but we assure you that all of your investments are linked to sustainability or ESG related impact, which you can obviously see in the long term that the new metro which will run in the city will be less polluting, will have less GHG emissions, will have materials that are green materials or sustainability source non-toxic materials, so it would be less harming to the people who are using the metro. So this way you not only get finance for yourself, but you also assure citizens about sustainability in the future. So it's a win-win situation for all. So this is how sustainable finance finance is related to the E aspect or the environmental pillar. And I hope now you understand what green bonds actually are in a very, very simple manner. And I hope you at least have a basic understanding now of what green bonds are. And obviously, if you're a finance pro, do let us know, everyone, in the comment section below, of how you would explain green bonds in a technical way to your interviewer. Okay, so now let's take the second example, which is hardcore finance specific, which is ESG linked ETF. So if you're already a finance person, I know you must be knowing what ETFs are. But for those of you who are not very well versed with finance, so ETFs are similar to mutual funds. So like in mutual fund, you have a fund in which, if you invest your money, it gets invested into different stocks by a broker. So ETF is more direct, wherein you do not have a direct broker, and so your money is invested into different companies in the form of shares. So if you invest 100 rupees in banking related ETFs, so 100 rupees would be further invested probably into 10 different banks. Or if you're investing 100 rupees in a defense sector ETF, so this 100 rupee would then be divided, like 50 rupees in one defense sector company, 25 in company number 2 in the defense sector, and other 25 rupees in company number 3 of defense sector. So similarly, if you're invested in ESG linked ETF, now your money is going to different companies, but all of these companies are probably the ones who are the best in terms of sustainability, or the best ranked companies in terms of ESG. They might come from different sectors, but they have the best ranking in terms of ESG and sustainability. So in this way, you invest your money in ESG ETFs, wherein you not only get some profit on the investment, but at the same time, you make sure that money is getting invested into sustainable companies, and your investment will not cause any damage to people or the planet. Now, the third example is of sustainability linked loans. Now, here you can take an example of a company who wants to start a new manufacturing unit. And obviously, to start this, they need money. And so they go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I want loan of 100 million rupees. Now, the bank says that, okay, I can give you 100 million rupees, but then what would you give me in return? So you say, obviously, I'll give you the interest, but I am venturing into sustainability. So my entire manufacturing unit would be constructed in a sustainable manner, and all the operations would happen in a sustainable manner. So you not just get your money back, and you not just earn some profit on interest, but you also get a sustainability linked return on investment, that we are doing good for the planet. So now the bank says, hey, this is interesting, I want the planet to be future proof, and I want the planet to be sustainable. So do one thing, show me that you are able to achieve XYZ% target of sustainability for your new manufactured unit, and in return I will reduce your loan interest to 2%. But if on the contrary, if you're not able to achieve the target, I will increase your interest rate on loan to 20%. So this is nothing but a simple example of what sustainability linked loans are, that if you are able to demonstrate good sustainability related impact, with the help of the money which is invested, you get a loan at lesser interest rate. But if you're not able to keep up with your promise, the interest rate of the loan increases. So now you have some fair idea of what sustainable finance is and what are the different instruments through which sustainable finance and sustainable investment happens. And you must be wondering that, hey, I am not the one who is interested in finance, or I do not want to do CFA, and then still why should I care about sustainable finance? Because one, if you want to make the planet sustainable, you must know how sustainable finance work, if the investments that you're making are going in the right direction for sustainability or not. And if you're someone who just cares about ESG or sustainability job, you need to know where the money is going and how investments are made, so that obviously you can take the best decisions for your company. So knowing this is super, super important. And if that's not all, sustainable finance is one of the most demanding or the most booming job market right now. And there are lots of roles coming up in sustainable finance, not just in banks, but also in normal any company. If you take any large company, so if they want to invest their money in sustainable assets, they need people who understand sustainable finance. If they want to introduce new sustainable products, they want people to understand how sustainable finance works so that they can get better financing for their products. And in general, if any company wants to have more investments from investors, they obviously want people in their team who understand sustainable finance and who can raise more money for the company. So it's super important for you to understand how sustainable finance work if you want to work in ESG and sustainability. And now if you're wondering what are the different types of roles you can work on if you understand sustainable finance, so first you can check out this video here, which is about finance linked sustainability careers if you are from a finance background. But hey, if you're not from a finance background, let's break down some careers which you can opt for in sustainable finance. So first one is ESG analyst. And I know ESG analyst is a very vague and general term, but then hey, if you go into investment banks or in rating agencies, now you already have the finance experts who crunch numbers related to finance and give ratings or give the best recommendations for investment. But now if the company wants to invest money in a sustainable company, they just don't need the information on the financial aspects but also on the ESG linked aspects. So here you are then supposed to analyze the ESG or sustainability related aspects of the company and provide your inputs on how the company looks in terms of ESG and sustainability. And eventually this data is merged along with the financial data of the company, which obviously the financial analyst will take care of, and eventually the companies get ranked or recommended for investments. And these type of roles are very prominent in investment banks or rating agencies. Then the next role again is related to sustainable finance expert or ESG investment expert, but it is more from an internal role or from an internal company's perspective. Now the difference here is that the investment banks provides recommendation to different companies of where the company should invest their money or where a high net individual should invest their money. But in an internal role, the company makes decisions for themselves of where they want to invest their money next. So again, if you're an energy sector company who wants to build solar panels, you will require analysts who can do analysis of different types of panel manufacturing company and gather which solar manufacturing company has the least impact on the environment, and from where you can take the best solar panels, along with the financial analyst doing some of the financial analysis, and then eventually procuring your solar panels from this XYZ company so that you can provide renewable energy as your company's product to your customer. So now we know what are the different types of roles. Let's understand what are the skills that you need to develop if you want to work in sustainable finance roles. So first of all, you need to have good data literacy because you will have to work with huge amount of data sets. So you should have a good command on tools like Excel and Power BI, and at the same time, if you understand data analysis with the help of Python or R or SQL, that even better because that obviously gives you an edge for large data analysis. The next one obviously is having good understanding of finance, or at least you need to have your basics in place. So you need to understand at least the basics like what is asset, liability, or what are the different types of financial instruments, where do investments happen, how do you get returns on investment, how do you make profit, how does a loss occur. Now I know you do not need to have as much knowledge as a CA or a CFA has, but still you need to at least know 12 standard level finance and accounting well, so that you understand basic finance and how financial aspects work. Then next, you obviously need to have a good understanding of different ESG frameworks. So again, watch this video on different reporting frameworks to understand what different frameworks actually demand for, or how different rating agencies have different demands for data, and basis which type of data the analysis is done for the sustainability related aspects. So you need to have very good understanding of ESG frameworks. And after you master these hard skills, you obviously need to have some soft skills like critical thinking or comparative analysis of taking the best decision out of the data that you receive from your analysis. You need to be good at communication because, hey, a lot of times to crunch the data or to get the correct data, you need to communicate well with a lot of stakeholders. Communication is the basis of getting a lot of data related to ESG and sustainability in the companies because, hey, a lot of these systems are not yet matured in most companies, and so the data is scattered, data is manual with a lot of different stakeholders at a lot of different locations of the same company. The data is like the location specific, so you need to be very good at communication and stakeholder management, obviously, to gather the best data possible from all of these stakeholders. So I know in today's video I have just touched sustainable finance at a high level so that you understand at least the basic of what sustainable finance is. And if you want me to go in even more detail, do let me know in the comments below of what section of sustainable finance or what other topics you would like me to cover on genSustainable, and we would obviously be back with all of the recommendations that you provide because, hey, making you future ready is our mission at genSustainable. So till we come back with another interesting video on genSustainable, stay impactful, stay sustainable. Bye bye.